Let's also go across now down south to Chennai, where Sam is standing by. Sam, a lot being said about the bill by different various parties, by the government, by Team Anna. But what does the common man really think about what's going on about the Lokpal bill?
Well, Gargi, they're keeping track of it quite closely from Chennai, and I have with me two prominent faces from the city here. Kiruba Shankar, the CEO of Business Blogging, and Chandra Mohan, an active core committee member of the India Against Corruption team here. Kiruba, if I can begin with you, do you think this kind of a thing will really end corruption in the country?
Well, it'll definitely fight against corruption, but will it end? My strong opinion is no, because I think it is just so deep-rooted in our culture that I think you really need a super power to really stop that out. But definitely the fear of it will get people more accountable, and hence it might
What's your take, Chandra?
Well, see, even Anaji doesn't say that it will end corruption 100%. But what we are hoping is 80% reduction of corruption. And that is a huge number. What we are fighting for is to put a system in place which acts as a deterrent. Right now, there are no laws, or there are laws which cannot be implemented properly because of the government's intervention. So what we are asking for is a separate Lokpal, which is independent of the government control, so that we can do justice.
One sticking point is, of course, inclusion of the Prime Minister under the Lokpal. What is your take on that?
You know, there's a pros and cons. Definitely the head of the country must be held accountable, but you don't want to pull him down with petty cases. I mean, if the bill says that anybody can put any case against the Prime Minister, I mean, he has a job to do, and he has a very important job to do. And if he's just firefighting, then how will he get his job done? So that's my case against it.
But you don't believe in that? You want absolute...
No. What we are saying is this. Anybody can go and file a complaint against the Prime Minister, but the investigation doesn't start unless the Lokpal body, comprising of all the members in it, they take a look at the case, and if there is a prima facie evidence that the Prime Minister has done corruption, only then will the investigation start. And if the complaint is false, obviously the complainant is going to be penalized, and all these things happen. So
you don't believe in exempting Prime Minister from the...
No, absolutely not. See, here's the thing. If the head of the country, if he is not going to be accountable, then what about the rest of them? Right?
Let's talk about issues that matter to people like you and me. When we go to a passport office, license, Group C and D employees, how important is to bring these two classes of officials under the Lokpal?
See, this is probably the most important thing about what we are fighting for in the Lokpal bill. Because Group C officials are the ones whom Aam Aadmi, the everyday people, go and face corruption against. Okay, there are about 57 lakh Group C officials entirely in the government, right? I mean, in the country. But what the government's proposing is the Group C officials will be investigated by CVC. CVC has about 230 people. How is 230 people going to investigate corruption of 57 lakh people? Besides, if it takes Group C away and give it to a toothless CVC, an Aam Aadmi who has a problem with his ration card in some village has to go to Delhi to complain about it. How is it anyway feasible?
Kiruba, do you think practically on the ground bringing C and D employees will be feasible?
It'll definitely be difficult, just considering the sheer mass of people that we have. I mean, Chandru spoke about 57 lakh C&D officials alone, and imagine the kind of population that we have out there. So my point is, see, the CVC people get paid by the government. You mean a salary for them to sustain. The police department get a salary for them to sustain. But if you're going to have a mass of Lokpal, the Lokyuta members, how are they going to sustain? So I'm just going to ask that question to Chandru, is that how is that possible?
It's very simple. What we are saying in Jan Lokpal bill is the Lokpal will be the government will provide whatever it needs, but whatever corruption charges that we fight against, and we recover all the money through the corruption cases, that money, a percentage of that money is used for the functioning of Lokpal. That way, it is self-sustained. You don't need the government's money to run this way, run this independent body. That is what we are saying.
Another crucial difference between Team Anna's version and the government's version is inclusion of CBI under the Lokpal. Why do you want CBI under? Why can't that be allowed to function independently?
First point is, during the August agitation, okay, even before that, the government's first draft bill, said in section 12 clause 1 that a separate investigative wing will be given for Lokpal. Now they are flip-flop. Now they took the investigation wing. It is a betrayal of this nation. The reason why we want CBI is any anti-corruption body. If it doesn't have an investigative power, what is the point in having the anti-corruption body?
What do you think, Kirba?
It shouldn't come under the government. It shouldn't come under the Lokpal. It should be fiercely independent, and that's when justice is served.
And lastly, very briefly, do you think Lokpal would be passed in this session?
I really hope so.
Well, I mean, it has to be. Otherwise, we're not letting the government free then.
So, Gargi, diverse opinions coming from our guests here, and certainly we'll have to keep our fingers crossed to see what's the fine print and whether Lokpal will be passed in this session of the Parliament.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone, fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.